Dak Prescott has had a good young career, throwing for nearly 16,000 yards in 4 seasons. And throughout those 4 seasons, he has shown that he is smart, mature, and scrupulous, manifesting in his almost 100 touchdowns to only 36 interceptions. But now his rookie contract is expired, and it's time for his next one. Teams are always in such a great position when their starting quarterback is on their rookie deal. Since rookie contracts always underpay the players so much, and quarterbacks are generally so overpaid, teams are in a great position to allocate their money elsewhere and build a title-contending team. This method has brought championships to both Kansas City and Philadelphia, as both of them had quarterbacks on their rookie contract when they brought home the Lombardi Trophy. And this method is currently being done by the Ravens, Texans, and Bills, all of whom have built great rosters in large part to their starting quarterback making next to nothing. And the Cowboys tried really hard to win a Super Bowl while Dak Prescott was still on his rookie contract, but they had failed. So now it's time to pay him what he's worth now that contract is up. So now the question is, how much is he worth? Look, we all know Dak Prescott isn't worth Patrick Mahomes' gargantuan contract, but the question is, how much less is he worth? Is he worth the $40 million for which he is demanding? Or is he worth something less? Let's see what the film says. One question that you always have to ask yourself when you're evaluating quarterback play is how much of his success is based on his own merit and skill and smarts, and how much is based on his coaching. In Dak Prescott's case, he has, in my opinion, one of the brightest young offensive minds in football in Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator. And he also has Jason Garrett as his head coach, and even though Garrett gets a lot of flack, he is a really smart guy. One play that makes me question Prescott's own decision-making on the field without his coordinators is this play right here. He has one of the most dynamic players in football in Ezekiel Elliott lined up wide right here, going against Marcus Golden, who's like 30 years old, a 30-year-old linebacker. He should see this right away. The ball should be going to Ezekiel Elliott. It's 1st and 10. This ball should be in Elliott's hands by the end of the play. For some reason, I don't know, maybe he doesn't see it. He looks right, left, and instead of throwing it to Zeke, who's got Marcus Golden beat here, he throws it to Randall Cobb, I believe that is, and he doesn't even complete the pass. But the fact that he doesn't complete the pass is not what I'm focusing on. It's a pass he absolutely should complete. But look, that's Zeke. I know you see the safety up there. However, there is plenty of space for Prescott to put the ball right here on the sideline, and the fact that he doesn't is insane. Zeke is a very capable receiver, and this should be a huge play on 1st down, and instead it's an incompletion. Another example of him completely missing something when he doesn't have his offensive coordinator in his ear talking to him is right here against the Eagles. It's late in the game in the 4th quarter. They're down by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and this absolutely should be a touchdown that could potentially tie the game if they make the 2-point conversion. Instead, he misses it entirely. The Eagles are going to be running cover 3 here, which means that this guy, and this guy are all going to be playing deep. And Kellen Moore draws up a perfect play to beat that. What do you do when you have 3 guys playing deep? You send 4 guys deep. And Kellen Moore does just that. And Dak Prescott just does not take advantage of the touchdown possibility right here. So you can see that the tight end and these 3 receivers are all going to be going deep. And you're right there. He's surveying the field right now. He should see very clearly that this guy is not an option, as he has both Malcolm Jenkins and this deep safety on him all the way. The tight end is covered. But what he should see is right here. He has 1 cornerback playing deep and 2 receivers. This receiver is going to be kind of going in, and this receiver is going to be staying on the sideline. He has everything perfect right here. Everything is set up perfectly for him. If the cornerback starts playing this guy, he throws it over top to this guy, and if this guy starts playing back, you squeeze it in, put the ball right here, and you get the ball at the 5. for your next play. So what does the cornerback do? He commits to this guy, and this so that he's wide open. Prescott Prescott is trying to throw it to his tight end, who's really well covered right here. I don't know what he's thinking. He should do some math and realize this guy's not available, and this guy's not available, and realize he has two guys out here who and only has one cornerback out there as well. He needs to have better. He needs to be better at predicting the future almost. His first read is out left, and he should read that from the get-go. Like, if you look at Tom Brady would be able to recognize right here, where he's still looking at this side of the field, that he's got exactly what he wants, and he just doesn't. Again, this makes me think that it's possible that a lot of his success is just Kellen Moore in his ear, and when Kellen Moore's not in his ear anymore, he starts making some imprudent decisions. Another very rational criticism of Dak Prescott is his inability to perform against really great defenses. Generally, he will really thrive, and his play will be really laudable when he's playing against subpar defenses. But then when the defenses are coached well or have a lot of talent, he'll play much worse. Like, to use the metric passer rating, which takes into account completion percentage, yards per attempt, touchdowns per attempt, and interceptions per attempt. He generally does really well against the worst teams he faces with the worst defenses. Like against the Giants defense, he got a perfect passer rating of 158.3. And then against Washington, he also did really well with a passer rating of 138.0. But then when he's not playing those really poor defenses, like when he's playing against Philadelphia, he got a passer rating of 74.5. Which is less than half of what his passer rating was against the Giants. Then against New Orleans, it was also really bad, of 73.2. Then against New England, it was abysmal, of 64.2. And this is like a play that really shows like how he plays against poor defenses. So right here, his receiver out here is going to be running a slant route, and Marshawn Lattimore, one of the top corners in the league, hands down, is guarding him really well, and Dak Prescott just doesn't see it. Or doesn't see Lattimore, or just underestimates him. Look, Lattimore has an inside leverage on his receiver, and his receiver is running a slant route. And Dak Prescott's looking at where Lattimore is playing, and he throws it anyway. He might be able to get away with that when he's playing against the Redskins cornerbacks or the Giants cornerbacks. But when he's playing against Marshawn Lattimore, I don't even know what he's thinking here. He's covered. I don't even know what Prescott even wanted here. This is the prime example of when you go to your second read. When your receiver is supposed to run this way, right through the cornerback. I just don't even know what he was thinking about when he threw this ball. I feel like this play is actually a really good embodiment of Dak Prescott and his success. This is a great play that he does, that he made last year, and it's really well done. But when you really look at it, you realize how much was going for him on this play. So this play is a 51-yard touchdown downfield, deep to this guy right here, hits him in stride, and he goes right into the end zone. But when you really break it down, when you break down this play, you realize everything that went right for him. First of all, throughout his entire career, he's been the beneficiary of one of the greatest O-lines in football, and that is shown really well here, as he has all of this real estate to work with, and he can wait for as many deep breaking routes as he wants. It's insane and truly remarkable, and he's been incredibly lucky. I mean, I'm not going to fault him for it, but it's something that you definitely need to take into account when you're analyzing him and his film. And another thing is you realize how great this play call is. Like, Washington is running zone coverage here, and Kellen Moore came up with a perfect play against the Redskins and their zone coverage. Because as you can see here, everything's on this side of the field. I mean, there are 4 routes on this side of the field and only one over here. So you have these 3 guys twiddling their thumbs, sitting there and waiting for anything to happen, when you have everybody here working their butts off trying to limit the damage. So what the route tree that they have here is they have people running out there, out there, out there, and up. And the Redskins don't have enough bodies, and even if they did have enough bodies, they're just not that talented. They had a really bad team last year, especially in the secondary, and this is right when he starts his motion. This safety right here, he's not that talented, but still he has no choice here. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place because he could try to bracket him, this receiver who ends up scoring a touchdown, but he has to guard Randall Cobb or Michael Gallup right here, and because he's wide open here because the other guy is running towards the sideline there, and this cornerback is stuck with him. So that he has to cover him, which leaves this guy wide open. So this is the perfect play call here to take advantage of the coverage and the incompetency of the Washington defense. Because obviously, if they had more talent, this guy, the cornerback, would be enough to beat this to cover this receiver. But he's just not. And if it's one-on-ones across the board here with Washington's talent, it's easy. It's easy money. Now look, like I said at the beginning of the video, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, and I think this play shows it really well. They're playing the Jets, and Prescott's going through his progressions, and he hasn't seen anybody open, so he doesn't throw it. Most of the time, he's not impetuous with the football. I know I found that one example earlier, but that doesn't happen a lot. It's enough for it to be a concern, but most of the time it does not happen. He throws very few interceptions, which is great because interceptions always kill any momentum that a team can generate. And so since Prescott is able to avoid any interceptions, he can generally keep any momentum alive. And so this is a great example. Doesn't see anyone open, doesn't throw it. What does he do? His great offensive line doesn't come through doesn't come through for him here. I think Tyron Smith, their superstar left tackle, is out or injured or something, and so they have a backup. So he's got some pressure. So what does he do? He quickly escapes while keeping his eyes downfield really well, and he's outrunning these guys. And he sees Jason Witten over here, and he throws it to him right on the money. And they are able to pick up a first down, which is incredibly impressive because if you look at the play here, that should not happen. Everybody's covered, the pocket's collapsing, and he's able to get out of it, extend the play, and make the play. And if he had tried to force a ball somewhere here, that wouldn't be possible. But he managed to do that, and that is incredibly impressive, and I think he absolutely should be praised for that. This is another great play by Prescott here that shows a lot of really important characteristics. So they start with having their number one receiver, Amari Cooper, run across the field, and the Giants' number one cornerback, Janoris Jenkins, follows him, which very heavily suggests that this is man coverage. And he also knows that he is his number two receiver on the top here going up against the Giants' rookie playing his first NFL game in DeAndre Baker. And so he really likes that matchup one-on-one, and he also sees that both the safeties are playing really close to the line of scrimmage. So what does he do? He calls an audible, which actually does show that he is able to adapt from what Kellen Moore gives him. And so what does he call the audible to? He calls it to a go route from Michael Gallup. And what does Michael Gallup do? Torches DeAndre Baker. Welcome to the NFL, rookie. And he makes a great play. And while the safety, right before the ball is snapped, starts running back, he doesn't have a shot at defending this deep pass here because it's so far from the sideline. I mean, he doesn't have a prayer. And Dak Prescott just made a great audible. And in addition, he's got this guy running right in his face, and he still is able to make a beautiful throw to Michael Gallup right in the bucket. This right here also shows the pressure in his face really well. He made the audible, which is incredibly smart, and he's trying to be a little risky, which I always like in a quarterback. And he sees this guy rushing, and so Lorenzo Carter is right in Prescott's face, and he still manages to make that throw. I mean, that's incredibly impressive, and it really shows the quarterback that Dak Prescott is. So Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. He's sedulous, he's smart, he's got enough talent to suffice in the NFL, and by all accounts, he's a great leader. And from what I could tell by his interviews, he always seems like a really great guy. However, there are some concerns which include the fact that he has a great offensive coordinator on whom I believe he leans sometimes. And he also had an outstanding roster around him throughout his entire career. Most of the time he's had days to throw. He could have a cup of hot chocolate in the pocket, catch up on some Game of Thrones, and then make the throw. And he also has had generally a pretty good defense. He's had Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield with him his entire career. But even with all this, he's never made it past the divisional round in the playoffs. And this past year, the Cowboys were so much more talented than the Eagles, but Carson Wentz took that team on his back and single-handedly brought Philadelphia to the playoffs. And Dak Prescott was unable to do the same thing with a much more talented roster, which is concerning. Now, look, it's possible that his dearth of postseason victories and the fact that they didn't even win the division last year when they're the most talented roster in the NFC East is due to Jason Garrett and some malpractice at the head coaching position. And we'll find out if that's the case this year, which is why I think it's smart that the Cowboys franchise tagged Prescott to see how he does with a new coach. And what did they do in the first round as well? They drafted a top-tier wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb, giving them an incredibly formidable offense. Couple that with a great defense with amazing linebacker play and DeMarcus Lawrence anchoring that defensive line. This is a team that should absolutely win their division and go pretty far in the playoffs. This is the year after firing Jason Garrett to see how much of it was actually his fault and how much of it was Dak Prescott's fault. Not to mention that Dak Prescott last year only had one win against a team that finished with a winning record. So like I said earlier in the video, Dak Prescott really needs to play better against better opponents. If he is unable to do that, then he's going to be an Andy Dalton, the picture mediocrity, whom, surprisingly enough, the Cowboys signed to be their backup quarterback. So what do I say? I say you give him one more year to prove his worth. He's playing for $31 million, which I think is an adequate price for him this year. And you see how he does. He has no excuses this year. He has a new coach who brought Super Bowl to Green Bay and Mike McCarthy. And he's got a great offense and a great defense. And let's see how he does. If he can bring the roster to the divisional round or maybe the Super Bowl, then you absolutely pay him $35 million, maybe $37 million a year for a while because that would be what he's worth. However, if he falls short of that and he demands $40 million a year, you let him go. Maybe franchise him for another year, see what you got, but you let him go. Okay, maybe you start Andy Dalton because he's much cheaper and you could probably get the same amount of production. But I will say this, it can be incredibly deleterious to a franchise if they pay someone more than what they're worth. I think the Cowboys have done that a couple too many times. I don't think that Ezekiel Elliott is worth that much money. I don't think a running back is worth that much money. Nothing against Ezekiel Elliott. I think they kind of overpaid for Amari Cooper. And so if you give Dak such a huge deal, you're going to be working in the bargain bin in free agency for the next while. So the only reason why you would give Dak that much money is if he can bring that group of bargain bin free agents and rookies and Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper far into the playoffs on his own, then he's worth that contract.